Hi teachers, here's a few ideas for you as you jump into Doctrine and Covenants section 2. I really like what they have here in the teacher's manual. I just adapted it a little bit. And when you come into the Google Drive, you'll see the changes that I made in this PowerPoint right here. Here's the PowerPoint directly as it is right out of the teacher's manual. I also added a PDF right here of a family tree. I'll show you in the PowerPoint here in just a minute. I liked it a little bit better. It looked like March Madness brackets, and you can have some fun with that, especially with March Madness coming up. So here's what I did for this lesson. I started it out a little bit different than they did the teacher's manual. I would ask the students, what's something that you were reluctant to try, people you were reluctant to meet, places you were reluctant to travel, food you were reluctant to eat, but once you did, your experience was much better than you anticipated. This could be movies, it could be hobbies, just something they've tried before that when they did it, it was a lot better than what they were expecting. So let them have some fun with this and give a few answers, and then say, today we're going to talk about family history work. What is your initial gut reaction when you hear that we're going to be talking about family history work? And you can have them do this little survey right here to see where they fall, that they love it all the way down to, I don't really see a clear reason for doing family history work, and say wherever you're at on there is fine. What we hope is by the end of today that you'll feel some of that excitement, that it's better than perhaps you anticipated it would be if you haven't ever tried it before. And then I'd see if there's anyone there who has jumped in and done some family history work. And oftentimes there's youth who are really excited. They've done some indexing. They've spent some time in their family tree. They take names to the temple and do baptisms for the dead. And so for them to be able to tell about how did you go from just hearing about it in the church growing up to now where you really love it and you spend time on Sundays doing it, you're taking your own names to the temple, you know how to use the app, and if you can get one of them bearing testimony of it, I think that'll make it really special. Tell them that you want to make sure that they understand the why behind why we do family history work first and foremost. We can get into the mechanics of it, but let's make sure we understand why. And Elder Uchtdorf explains this well when he said the what informs, but the why transforms. So in jumping into the why, then I would go right with how they have it in the teacher's manual and jump into Doctrine and Covenants 2 after giving them a little bit of context about Moroni appearing to Joseph Smith and quoting these Old Testament prophecies. As you go into Doctrine and Covenants section 2, notice here in the notes section, there's some great cross-references that you could take them into to help them understand section 2 a little bit better. Like when did Elijah eventually come and restore those keys? And there might be some questions that arise during the course of section 2, and just know that at the end of the lesson they have some really good quotes that you might refer to help answer some of these questions about the earth being utterly wasted. And so know that there's some great resources there. So after going through Doctrine and Covenants section 2, asking these questions that they talk about in the teacher's manual, identifying these truths out of these verses. So I would next go to this slide, which I added simply because I just didn't feel like this outline for this lesson really was Christ-centered like it could be. So a deliberate question like this with this picture, what does family history work have to do with Jesus Christ? And let this Spirit work with the youth to try to make connections with family history work and the Savior. And I think they'll come up with some beautiful things. Of course, we wouldn't be able to do any of this work for the dead if the Savior hadn't performed his atoning sacrifice. And I hope they sense that all our family relationships being able to extend beyond this life are thanks to our Savior, Jesus Christ. So make sure that they see that clear connection. Then I would see if they've heard this quote before, which I'm sure they have a million times. All of us have. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And then just tell them, hey, let's go fish. Let's let you jump in and actually try this. Rather than just tell you about family history work now, let's let you try it and let you experience the joy that comes from it. So have them open up the Family Search app. And if you look at this lesson in advance, tell them in advance to make sure that they have it on their phone. For parents, if you send out a message to their parents, have them get on with their son or daughter and make sure that they can log in, that they know their username and password. That'll be crucial so that they can have a good experience when this day rolls around. But I would have them open up their app and go to the family tree and tell them they have a minute to study their family tree. When the minute's up, give them this copy of their family tree that's blank and tell them you are inviting them to see how many generations they can remember, and have them start filling in everybody that they can think of. Again, I like this because it looks a lot like March Madness. And the winners in the end, that's you and your wife, right? And so they're going to put their name right there in the middle, in the center, and remind them that these pedigree charts can remind us every time we see one that we are winners. Then have them fill that out. I like the question on the next slide, and that is, how has your life been influenced by these individuals, and what is a meaningful experience you can share about one of these family members? So have them look over their tree for a minute. Is there an experience that one of your ancestors had that impacted you, and if so, could you share that with us? Then have them open up the app again and take a look at some of the cool features there in the Family Search app. So have them open their app again, and once they get inside, have them go to the bottom right there and click on that, and it'll give them all these options right here. One of the fun ones to do with a class is to have them all go into relatives around me, scan for relatives, and if they're all doing it at the same time, they're connected to the church's Wi-Fi or to your home Wi-Fi, they'll be able to see how they're related to each other. That's a really fun one to do, and it's oftentimes surprising when you find somebody close to you. Map my ancestors if they haven't done that one before. That's a lot of fun. Here's something I learned tonight, and I don't know how long this has been a feature, but you can click on one of your relatives, and if you hold it down, it will show how you're connected to that ancestor. Really cool. I've never noticed that before. The other thing is, if you want to see all the places they live from the time of their birth all the way through their life until their death, this will walk you through that. So you can see where they live, the different homes, and then where they ended up being buried at, where their death spot's at. In doing this tonight even, I was shocked to find that I have a lot of relatives that live just a little south of me in Iowa. And I'm really excited to go down the next time I'm in Iowa and to try to find some of their headstones. I like taking pictures of the headstones and adding them to their records. Anyway, that's a really fun one to go through and just see how you're related to anybody. Hold that down for a minute. It'll pull up how you're connected. And then you can see their life and where they live. That's one fun thing to do. You can also go into this family history activities. This takes you online, but there are a lot of really fun ones. And I imagine most of you have tried these before, but when you click on where am I from, and it shows you the different places your ancestors come and what percentage of you is from this part of the world, what part is from here. Anyway, play around with all these. This one's always fun for the youth. Famous relatives that they're connected to. Compare a face. That one's hilarious. I'm really closely connected with Taylor Swift. We had a high percentage, and that was just scary on so many levels. Anyway, let them come in here and try this for a minute and just start to feel that connection with their ancestors. I would try to set aside enough time that they can really have a meaningful experience in there. But then leave them with this invitation to pick one of the following 4 activities to try to help fulfill this prophecy of Elijah to turn our hearts to our Father. So put up those 4 options there. Let them read through and just say, will you prayerfully consider which one of these that you want to do within the next week or whatever time frame that you want to set. I would then let them know a specific day in the coming future that you're going to give them an opportunity to report back and to tell about one of these 4 experiences that they try. I would then send out an email to the parents that night, let them know what we talked about in class that day, and let them know that we're going to report back on a certain day, and invite the parents to get involved with their youth in fulfilling this activity. Last, I would make sure and end with this quote by Elder Bednar. There's also the video in the teacher's manual of this. It's fantastic. I love what he says here and what he teaches about the youth being prepared to text and tweet, but more importantly, to be able to do family history work. Last but not least, this amazing video from Roots Tech. This was one of the opening videos in Roots Tech back in 2019. It is powerful. I would end with that, along with my own testimony, and if there's maybe a young man or young woman in your ward that you know is into family history work, perhaps consider having them bear their testimony at the end and inviting them to connect it back to Jesus Christ.